Jeffrey Gundlach, double line.
Jeffrey Gundlach, double line.
Jeffrey Gundlach, double line. Jeffrey Gundlach, double line.
Yeah, the market is clearly overbought. The PE ratio, the CAPE ratio is up at 38. I mean, these are high valuations, and there's a lot of overbelief in the market because it's been so good. And unfortunately, human nature is to project forward what's happened in the recent past. And so there's a lot of overinvestment. And the unemployment rate seems like it's heading higher per Jay Powell's own analysis. It's a tough period now with assets as high as they are in terms of valuation. There's not going to be an aggressive cutting cycle as a base case in 2025. Obviously, the market went from 4 implied Fed rate cuts in 2025 to now the Fed's out at 2. And my thesis that we are in secularly rising interest rates now at the long end seems to be being borne out. I mean, here the Fed has cut rates 100 basis points, and the 10-year Treasury yield is up by over 80 basis points since that time period. But now that rates have gone up 80 basis points in a Fed cutting cycle, I think there's tremendous uncertainty on what's going to happen with inflation, the deficit, and the economy. The inflation rate is sticky. He says it's now going sideways at about 2.5 to 2 3/4. Treasury yields are up at 4.5. So there is a real rate there.
So there is a real rate there.
So there is a real rate there. Real rates of return out of intermediate dated bonds if you take moderate credit risk, and it looks like that's going to be earned for some time to come. And it's not so much that I like the belly, it's that I don't like the long end. And you have to be somewhere.
And you have to be somewhere.
You have to be somewhere.
And you have to be somewhere. I don't want to own 30-year Treasury bonds. I don't want to own anything longer than 10-year Treasury bonds. There's no extra yield there for it. I mean, you're only getting 14 basis points going from 2 years to 10 years. You can get yields that are in the 6% to 7% range without a lot of risk out of fixed income, but you want to do that not in long maturities. You want to do that in a portfolio that's sort of 2 to 5 to 7 years at the most.
What do you think the right portfolio breakdown looks like right now?
I would actually hold about 30% in cash right now. The yield on cash appears not to be going away. You're not giving up much yield versus other assets that have volatility and risk. I like that bond portfolio that I described, obviously, because that's how I'm managing my money and my clients' money, and I would have half of my money in that. And then 20% I would own U.S. stocks. I continue to hold gold. Positioning in gold and Bitcoin will probably continue to increase. I view that people are viewing them as more asset allocations than speculations as we look into an uncertain future regarding the economy, the Fed, the pace of inflation, unemployment, all of this stuff, and the need for fiscal rectitude starting to become more clearly in focus, which I think will happen.
Do you own any Bitcoin at the current time?
No, I've never owned Bitcoin. I just can't stand investments that are unanalyzable, illiquid, and that high risk, high volatility. It's really the volatility that I'm allergic to in Bitcoin. It's happening in real time. The Fed has cut rates 100 basis points, and the 10-year is up 80 basis points over that time period. If you get so much debt that is leading to this nominal growth, you're going to have not just more bonds, you're going to have a higher interest rate on those bonds. And I think that has something to do with the market sussing out the fact that we have an interest expense problem. And we still have all of these bonds that were issued in 2017, 18, 19, first part of 20, down at 1% interest rates. They're being rolled over now at 4.5%. The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The arithmetic just doesn't add up. You need to have some sort of action taken on this expense issue. Department of Governmental Efficiency, but at least let's move in that direction. Let's start with not promoting Egyptian tourism with $6 million of borrowed money from the U.S. taxpayer. We used to pay $300 billion a year in interest expense.
We used to pay $300 billion a year in interest expense.
And now it's $1.3 trillion a year in interest expense. And now it's $1.3 trillion a year in interest expense. And now it's $1.3 trillion a year in interest expense. The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The inflation rate is sticky.
The inflation rate is sticky.
The inflation rate is sticky. The inflation rate is sticky. The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The sun shines, and people forget.
The inflation rate is sticky.
The spring flies, the speedboat flies, and people forget. Forget their honey and those girls smile, yeah. And people forget.
And now it's $1.3 trillion a year in interest expense.
The snowpacks, ski tracks, and people forget. Whoa! Forget their hiding in there. Evidence front is put on. Evidence front is put on. Come and join the party, dressed to kill. Won't you come and join the party, dressed to kill? Dressed to kill. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The arithmetic just doesn't add up.
The arithmetic just doesn't